Hello class, I'll be presenting my project. My project was based on Kansas City. So in this project, I'm gonna present on about my project, my data preparation process, my classification process, results, conclusion, and finally so the study seeks to explore any data patterns that may be available between 311 calls and crimes happening in the same area. For example, a question would be, does a higher rate of 311 service calls relate to the rising number of crime cases in the neighborhood? And this study also mainly sought to establish whether the variables can create a model that clusters the data into simple clusters for easy predictability. So the study also sought to establish whether the variables can create that model that can be used to create our simple clusters that we can use to predict and plan. Because if you can predict whether a crime is going to happen or how many crimes are likely to happen during this month in this area and number of calls, then you can see and underlying factors and maybe come up with a policy that can improve those conditions and avoid such crimes or such diminishing of public service. This is my first data source that I load to my VS Code to analyze with Python, and I look at the first 10 rows of the Kansas City crime data. The service called data preparation process included many tasks. One is dropping unnecessary columns. For example, this one is the service calls where I dropped parcel ID number, like number of days that the case was open for. I also dropped several columns from the Kansas City crime data from date, from time to time, description. Those were columns that were not going to be useful to me in my analysis. I grouped the report by dates. This was to prepare it for merging and to also eliminate duplicates in dates. This was one of the main columns that. So I merged the two data sets on that column of the reported days since I already cleaned it and it has no duplicates. Once the data is merged, then I do the one-hot encoding. The importance of the one-hot encoding is that some machine learning or most machine learning models do not accept categorical data, but instead take binary data, numeric data as input. So we move to the next, where I share an example of one-hot of my one-hot encoding, and then I move to the next part where I'm initializing classification. So I was able to get a elbow curve that was able to tell me the number of clusters that I need. So from this one, as you can see, the curve is dropping stiffly at 4, so it means 4 clusters. So the results, once the data frame was passed through the clustering process, the above output was obtained. You can see from the departments, you can see the clusters. You can see we have 4 clusters. There is 0, 1, 2, and 3. And each cluster, if you look at on the column that we have the reported date, you can see that it's they are grouped by month. So we have 12 months in a year. So you can see from January to December, and then from which month you can see which cluster was more frequent or which cluster would be more presented in that month. So if you're planning, for example, on to improving services in your city, you may look during January, the month of January, you can look at these departments. You can look at public works, health, water services. So those are some of the departments that are highly likely to get 311 calls. Then from the police districts, then you'll be looking at Shoal Creek, Metro, and these police districts. You can also find that they are going to be the police department reporting the highest number of crimes during January, for example. if our model is accurate. Basically, that's my presentation. Thank you.